Okay, we are going to speak about today the era of Hakhamim in Morocco in the 16 and 1700s. The Hakhamim in Morocco were known to be great Talmidei Hakhamim in Pshat, but less well known was their greatness in the world of Kabbalah and their influence in Kabbalah, especially of the Arizal. There were many, many great Hakhamim that lived in this era. And we are going to discuss some of them, and hopefully it will shed light on the whole era that was basically unknown. It was an era that was basically unknown. Let's start off with the sefer called Mordechai. Mordechai was written by Rav Mordechai Atiyah on different sections in Shas, in Gemara. And he speaks about Marrakech. You know, the city of Marrakech was known for its tremendous amount of Hakhamim. Recently, the son of Rav Yaakov Hillel, Rabbi Avraham Hillel, wrote a book containing, I think, over 600 Hakhamim that are buried in this cemetery. It's one of the largest concentration of Hakhamim in one cemetery in the world. And a lot of these Hakhamim were Rabbanim that were well known in the world of Kabbalah that used to write back and forth with the Rashash. And here, Rav Mordechai Atiyah, which was a sefer that I believe Rav Ben Zion Bashaul used to recommend his students to learn in Pshat, he writes how this came about. So I'll read to you how this came about, and I'll read to you from the Haskama that he wrote the Hagdama that he wrote to Sefer Mordechai. A little bit difficult to read the print, but I'll read and translate because it's just it's a beautiful thing. Amarat Sa'ir Mordechai, he says, I'm writing Mordechai Asher Gadalani ala Torah ve'al Avodah. My father raised me on Torah and Avodah day and night in the city I was born of, Dimnat, and he was always careful to bring me to teach me Torah from when I was young. He sent me when I was young, once I became bar mitzvah, to one of the great cities of Israel in Torah and Yirat Shamayim, the city of Marrakech. He says Morocco, that we write that the Yishmaelim called Marrakech. Migdolim b'ne'orehem b'yirat Elohim, their greatness and in Yirat Shamayim, and there are a lot of people who are known for their Torah. Ubekoach ve'el kulam anashim tzadikim, they were all great anashim tzadikim. V'talmud Torah keneged kulam, and he starts writing much praise. Pilpula charifta b'shas u'beposkim. You don't need to bring a proof to all of this. And he brings one interesting, very important name that unfortunately people don't know too much about. Rosham magiash lashamayim, their head raised above in the sky. V'chol haaretz asher toratam bahir b'shechakim rishon b'kedusha. The first Rav, the one that's known for his great amount of kedusha, Morenu Rav Yitzchak Deluya. Rav Yitzchak Deluya was known as one of the great teachers of Kabbalah in the 1600s. Actually, not in the 1600s, before the 1600s, as we're going to see. And there is a tradition that Rabbanan Bet Yosef, Rav Yosef Karo, visited the city of Marrakech and had a discussion with him. A discussion that there was three things that they actually discussed. One of them was Chalak Bet Yosef, whether you have to peel off the sirchot, whether you're allowed to peel off the sirchot, the adhesions to the lung of the animal, or you have to say it's tarif right away, and whether they did Kaddish on Mincha after the Sefer Torah on Shabbat, which Rav Yitzchak Ben Deluya, from what I understand, in his synagogue, they did for many, many years Kaddish of Minchav Shabbat, and of course the common custom is not to do Kaddish on the Sefer Torah on Minchav Shabbat. And a third detail that escapes me right now, what the machloket was about. So he was the great leader of Yitzchak Deluya in his time. There was also another Rav called Rabbi Shlomo Amar, who I believe is buried in Marrakech. And the third one, Rabbi Avram ben Musa, which I'm going to discuss today a little bit more extensively. Rabbi Avram ben Musa was born in the 1660s. Rabbi Avram ben Musa was born he was born in 1660 in Tetuan. He was born in Tetuan, and he came from a lineage of Rabbanim that came from Spain. Their name is already written in the Shelot Uchuvot Arivash of Rav Yitzchak Bar Sheshat in a couple of places, and it's written that Rav Yitzchak Diluya's, Rav Avram ben Musa's Rav was a Rav called Rav Yaakov Margi. Rav Yaakov Margi was a tremendous Mekubal that apparently they have writings of his that are never published on the Zohar HaKadosh, one of the longest and most extensive writings on the Zohar HaKadosh. Just to give you an idea, the one section of it, written on Sefer Parashat Bereshit alone, contains 876 pages of very close Ktav Yad writing. It seems to it's in some manuscript that's not published yet. And this Rav Yaakov Mergi apparently was the Rav of Rabbi Avram ben Musa, and they were more like friends. But he calls them. He writes in a Sefer Minchat Sota, published by Avad Shalom, page Tafla Medaled. Shamati me'alufi u'meyeduya asher yachdav namtik sod brit Elohim. Harav HaKoleh Rav Yaakov Margi. So they were obviously very close. You have Rav Yaakov Margi and Rav Avram ben Musa were in the city of Tetuan. Later, he moved to the city of Saleh. The city of Saleh, we have to understand, in the 1700s, was, we'll call it, the breeding ground. They were preparing the place where the Or HaChaim HaKadosh eventually would learn from, and that's where the Or HaChaim HaKadosh learned. There was a whole chabur of Mekubalim. Among them, as I mentioned, Rabbi Avram ben Musa and Rav Yaakov Margi ended up over there also, and other Rabbanim. Among the Rabbanim that are more well known is Rabbi Chaim ben Atar Hazaken. I mean, he was the grandfather of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, who the Or HaChaim HaKadosh writes of him in a couple of places that he was his mentor, he was his Rav, and he was his Moreh Derech. And the Or HaChaim HaKadosh learned from him. Also, there were some Shlichei Rabbanan, people that were sent from Eretz Yisrael to Morocco to raise funds and also to teach Torah there. Two of them were Rabbi Chia Dayan and Rav Elisha Ashkenazi. Both of them came to Morocco at that time, and Or HaChaim also considers them his Rabbanim because they were Rabbanim of Rav Chaim ben Atar HaZaken. This is all written in the Hakdama of the Sefer of Rav Shmuel Di Abila and Rabbi Elazar ben Derabila, all family of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. This is really where he grew. Now, getting back to the Mekubalim from the city of Saleh, Rabbi Avram ben Musa, for some reason which is unknown to us, ended up in Marrakech. He ended up in Marrakech. And there, it seems to be, there was a whole chabura of Hakhamim. Here, Rav Mordechai Atiyah mentions Rav Avram ben Musa in his Akdama. After he mentions Rav Yitzchak Diluya, Rav Shlomo Amar, he writes, "HaMikubal ha'Elohi harav HaKolel ve'Avraham yeh legoy gadol atzum verav." And he's referring to Rabbi Avram ben Musa. Now, Rabbi Avram ben Musa had a certain group of Hakhamim that were in Marrakech, and they were really the authors of a very important a sefer al pi Kabbalah, as an explanation to the Zohar HaKadosh, called the Mikdash Melech. And in the Sefer Malchi Rabbanan of Rav Yosef ben Naim, he mentions that there were primarily four authors to the Sefer Mikdash Melech. There was Rabbi Avram ben Musa, as we mentioned. There was Rabbi Yaakov Pinto. He was also a great Rav at that time, Rabbi Yaakov Pinto. There was two other Rabbanim, and they all participated in writing the Sefer Mikdash Melech. There was somebody else called Rav Yishaya HaKohen and Rav Yaakov Gedalia. Now, they all learned in Chabura, it sounds, they all learned Chabura together, as writes the Malchi Rabbanan, and they all contributed to this Sefer called Mikdash Melech. But the one who wrote it, his name was Rabbi Shalom Buzaglo. And he was the one who compiled, we'll call it all. There was a lot of chidushim of these four great Rabbanim. Rabbi Avram ben Musa, Rav Yaakov Gedalia, Rav Yishaya Cohen, and Rav Avram ben Musa. There was one great Rav who was considered one of the great leaders of the time, and his name was Rabbi Avram Azulai. Not to be confused with the great-grandfather of the Chida, the great Chesed LaAlafim, Rabbi Avram Azulai from Fez, that wrote a Perush on the Levush, and he wrote the Sefer Chesed LaAvram, which is a very important Kabbalistic work, and that, if I believe, he's buried in Tiberia. There's another Rabbi Avram Azulai that lived in Marrakech, is considered one of the tremendous Mekubalim of Morocco. And he was the primary force behind the Sefer Mikdash Melech. So once again, there was Rabbi Avram Azulai, there was Rabbi Yishaya Gedalia Cohen, there was Yaakov Pinto, and there was Yaakov Gedalia. These are 4 Hakhamim. And among them, the Sefer Malchi Rabbanan writes, Rabbi Avram ben Musa was also a contributor. So they were all a group of amazing Mekubalim, and Rav Avram ben Musa, coming from the influence of Rav Yaakov Mergi, were all tremendous Mekubalim during this era. And they printed this well-known book called Mikdash Melech. Now, it's known that there's Kabbalah that came from different sources. There was Kabbalah that came before the Arizal, which was based on the Kabbalah of the Rishonim, of the Ramban and others. And once the Arizal came out, it really it became accepted that the Kabbalah of the Arizal was the one that really was the most accepted, and it's the most learned till today. The Kabbalah, there's slight nuances and slight differences, but that was the Kabbalah that's more well known. And there is a misconception that people think that a lot of the Mekubalim of Morocco didn't follow the exact Misora of the Arizal, which doesn't seem to be very accurate. I'll just bring you one thing that's written in the Ktavim, in the writings of Rabbi Yaakov Mergi, and he writes like this. He writes like this, that once Rav Yaakov Mergi discovered the writings of the Arizal and of the Rav Chaim Vital of the Morocco, which was a student of the Arizal, asher ba'avuram hiniach hamechaber kol chochmot hafilosofim hatoranim v'chachmei Kabbalah kadmonim. Once he found the Kabbalah of the Arizal, he left all other philosophical and Chachmei Kabbalah that were before the Arizal. V'davak bam u'b'mishnatam levad, and he stuck on to their Torah and their Mishnah. U'keduta shelemin yom hitgalut kitveim. Once he found their Ktavim, which wasn't long after when he was alive, it wasn't long after the Arizal and Rav Chaim Vital passed away. Ki lo zaza yadi letoch yadam. He writes like this: my hand didn't leave their hand. Betzilam chimadti v'yashavti u'piryom matok lechiki. It's poetic language that I sat, and their fruits were very pleasant to me. Asitim toratam kva kol yemei eretz zerav katzir v'kor v'chom v'kaitz v'choref yom v'layla. I learned them whether there was day or whether it was night. I didn't leave learning them, and he says that he learned through all night, and that was his main focus of Rabbi Yaakov Mergi, which was the writings of the Arizal his whole life. And that's what he passed over to Rabbi Avram ben Musa. As a matter of fact, in the Sefer Minchat Sotah of Rabbi Avram ben Musa, he actually references a lot of times the Pirushim al Pi Kabbalah. Great Chachamim in Kabbalah, and also Chachamim in Pshat. Rabbi Avram ben Musa eventually moved from Saleh. He was in the city of Fez, and in the city of Fez, he encountered a certain story that happened. That I'll mention the story quickly. That it seems to be that there was the wife of the general who was in charge of Fez. We'll call him the Sar, the main governor of the city of Fez. She was a wicked lady, and she would always make big problems for the Jews. So Rabbi Yaakov, so Rabbi Avram ben Musa thought that an effective way to take care of her was to write to told a student to do something to her food that eventually it was some type of kamea, some type of amulet, that whatever she would eat, her breath smelled like excrement. And it was so bad, she suffered so much, she tried to find all types of antidotes and she couldn't find, until eventually she asked the Jews, maybe they could help. And Rabbi Avram ben Musa said, as she promised she's never going to harm the Jews again, he'll help her. So he actually did that, and he wrote an amulet for her, and he helped her out, and she got better. But then some of the people in the courtyard of the governor accused Rabbi Avram ben Musa that he probably did the curse from the beginning, which was actually true. So he was afraid for his life, so he ran off and he settled in Tunisia, in the city of Tunis. And over there he taught many Hakhamim, and it seems to be that he brought a lot of the Kabbalah that was in Tunisia at that time came from Rabbi Avram ben Musa. He wrote a sefer. He had a few students, one of them called Rabbi Mordechai Carballo, Rabbi Yaakov Lombroso, Rabbi Avram Gigi. All of these were students in Tunisia. And that's where he's niftar, that's where he's buried, Rabbi Yaakov ben Musa. As a matter of Rabbi Avram ben Musa. As a matter of fact, not long ago they tried to move his kever, his burial place, and other great Hakhamim that were there, because they wanted to put train tracks. And every time they would try to do that, they would the people working, when they put down their axe, it went back in their face and they died. And the governor from Tunisia at the time knew very well that there was great Hakhamim and they were playing with fire. So if you go till today in Tunisia, you'll see that the train tracks go around the Bet HaKfarot, and there's a mausoleum, there's a nice edifice of the kever of Rabbi Avram ben Musa, where it stands till today. Rabbi Avram ben Musa was known to be a great Mekubalim, and most of his writings, manuscripts, were never printed before. Recently, Ahavat Shalom printed his sefer on Masechet Sota. There's another manuscript on Masechet Yuma that Be'ezrat Hashem we hope to have the merit to print it soon on Masechet Yuma. And it's amazing perushim that Chachamim, that Talmidei Chachamim are being exposed to. It's a Sfarim on Pshat. It's not his Sfarim al Pi Kabbalah. It's a Sfarim on Pshat. He also wrote the very famous piyut called Nirdi Natan Recho. He wrote many piyutim, but one of them that became more widespread, which is sung by the Moroccan communities on Shavuot, is Nirdi Natan Recho, which is talks about Kabbalat Torah and Har Sinai. It's a well-known piyut that was from Rabbi Avram ben Musa. So this is just a glimpse of the Chachamim that were in this time. Once again, we have Rabbi Yitzchak Deluya, we have Rabbi Avram Azulai, we have Rabbi Yaakov Pinto, Rabbi Shaya Kohen, Rabbi Yaakov Gedalia, as well as, of course, Rabbi Yaakov Margi and Rabbi Avram ben Musa. We're all great Chachamim that are not well known, but during this time they lit up the world of Kabbalah from the city of Tetuan to Saleh to Fez to eventually they spread it to Tunisia. And we understand very well when the Or HaChaim HaKadosh was born, what generation and what background he was born to. This is obviously, Saleh wasn't the most prominent city in Morocco at the time with the greatest amount of Chachamim. It seems to be in Fez. That's another shiur about the golden era they call of Fez. In that era, the tremendous Chachamim that were at that time, they were known to be the city that had many Talmidei Chachamim and Mekubalim, Rav Vidal Tzarfati and others. That was the golden era. But we concentrated today on the city of Marrakech and the Mikdash Melech and the city of Saleh. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll discuss another time the great Chachamim of that era from different places in Morocco. Chazak u'baruch.